Welcome, YouTube. It is week 3. We're going into week 3 of VCT Pacific, and a lot has happened, especially on my end, because you're about to find out that I have to put out a public apology for baiting you all into maybe trusting my Pickems. You can believe me. My Pickems are perfect. It's a fact. My Pickems are perfect. And then, as we do every week, we will try to re-rank where we think each team should be in terms of power level, and then we'll do our Pickems for week 3. So that's going to be the plan. Let's jump right in to see what happened in week 2. Okay, so down the line, going down the road, let's start with Team Secret versus Zeta Division. Honestly, this one, honestly, looking back, I'm hesitating because I predicted Team Secret. I'm hesitating because I predicted Team Secret, but honestly, in hindsight, this one was probably, outside of the T1 game, probably the least surprising in terms of the actual play that happened, regardless of score, right? Secret looked, I mean, they basically didn't look that different, but even the aim wasn't quite there for anyone that wasn't named Envy, as we can tell with the score here. So it was kind of rough. But on the flip side, like, Zeta looks to be delivering week after week. You know, nothing too crazy, but they're experimenting. They're playing Icebox. They have a plan for it. They're playing Reyna ISO. I kind of dig it. They're playing the Vice on it. It's looking pretty solid. They're not shying away from it after, what, 2.5 years or something, ever since Chamber disappeared, basically. If you just look at it, like, they're starting to take map control. They're playing proactive, and I would say more so than they did the previous week. So it looks all on the up and up. Meanwhile, on Team Secret, I mean, it's the same old story. Like, they're holding defaults. They're kind of slow to react. They're missing a couple shots. They played the Waylay here, which, admittedly, I think Lotus is one of the few maps where I can kind of see the Waylay. I don't know if it's great, but as a solo duelist, like, I could see it working, but they didn't really take advantage of it too well, right? Like, if you're using the way to get space and rubble, like, what are you doing on the other side? Like, it just all felt very, very slow and reactionary. And to be very honest, I don't know if that really suits Jeremy very well. Like, if you're playing solo duelist Waylay, like, you either need to be giga aggressive and get kills, or you have to be full human drone. And I've always felt Jeremy was not really strongly either. All right. There's not much more to say about that. I've already spent way too much time on that match. T1 versus NONGSHIM. I mean, listen, like, I know people are going to say I'm coping, but honestly, I do think it's the best that I could have hoped for from NONGSHIM. Like, they started off strong. They came out with some good ideas. They had their own ideas. It looked like they had some good reads in terms of prep against T1 on both of these maps, quite frankly, right? They win the first pistols on both. And on Icebox, they even win the second pistol. And so then you can say, like, well, you won both pistols and you lost, so that kind of sucks. And it does. But as some other people have mentioned, I mean, Meteor had a slow start, as he often does, actually. And that was your best shot. And they tried to take advantage of it, but he starts to warm up. You know, they get a couple kills. Buzz warms up, you know, drops 21. And then it goes through. And quite frankly, this one, Meteor barely warms up by the end. But Stax also had... He had some rounds. Stax had some rounds. I mean, he had 7 multi-kill rounds, a 1v2 clutch. Incredible showing from the IGL of T1. So, I mean, that's just I think that's a experience and a little bit of a skill gap there from an individual perspective. I will say this was a very good game, and I think one of the reasons it was a good game is I think a lot of other teams, this may have just become momentum, right? And like, NONGSHIM starts winning, and then they roll through the first map, and then it's their pick. They roll through the second map. That could have happened. But if you take a look back of this game, like, at no point does T1 just, like, rush things. I can't remember. I mean, there probably was maybe one or two, but in my memory, I can't remember a single round where T1 was just, like, running past corners, getting triple killed, and, you know, like, not using util to clear areas. Like, they were so thorough, even in the rounds that they lost. Some people will look at the split and the solo Waylay, and yes, Dombey had a horrendous game, quite a horrendous game. Really didn't get to do anything on defense. He was basically just waiting on ramps and then getting dueled and picked off by Meteor, and that's very unfortunate. And people look at that and be like, well, was it a good game? But I would argue that it was. I would argue especially because they actually showcased some good entry combos for Waylay, more than they did before, against RQ on the attack, to the point where they were able to get 8. But then on defense, I mean, T1, I think T1 had a good read, right? They said, okay, they want to wait until we use util, like the opponent uses util, and then they want to trade util and then stagger and delay and play off of time. So what we're going to do is we have a guy named Meteor who can just walk in and take duels and win 90% of them. So we're just going to send him in, no noise, and he's going to get rounds for us. And that's what he did. He goes huge. Izu always looks very comfy on the Yoru. T1's just better. T1 is just better. There's not much more to say about that. T1 is a Masters winners for a reason. So I think if you're a T1 fan, you're resting assured. If you're a Pacific fan, you're resting assured. But NONGSHIM, I don't think it's doom and gloom. Personally, I'll say it every chance I get. I do hope they reconsider the solo waylay. I do. But like, honestly, this attacking half, though, like, I was starting to see it. Genji versus Paper Rex. Ugh. I mean, they looked so bad on Haven. There were so many egregious mistakes on Haven. Like, forget the first two maps even. Just on Haven, there were just things that simply shouldn't be happening with a team of this caliber. Like, you can lose aim duels because Genji's just better. Like, Genji might just outcall you on the rotate. Like, things like that can happen. But, like, you're peeking into Garage without util with the spike, and you're, like, re-peeking it. You're like using all your util and then like trying to figure out what to do on the retake, and then you like rotate to a different, entry point, and then you have no util for the retake. It was kind of a train wreck, to be honest, specifically this map. Honestly, I'm still kind of on board with the Forsaken as a main duelist, but the rest of it definitely doesn't seem that great. So maybe there is a different option that you have to consider. But on the flip side, Gen.G looked a lot better. Ash looked very confident. Like, he was happy to swing and take duels. He was happy to 1v2. He was happy to lock down. He didn't basically look fidgety. He kind of looked fidgety in week one, but it looks like he shook that off right away. Wasn't really scared to play against the likes of Paper Rex. And I would say Suggest did his job. I think what people saw now was that Suggest was taking the right like space and timings. And even in week one, I think he was, or at least trying to. He would just get picked off like way too easily, or he would just lose the duel way too easily. So Gen.G looks course corrected. I think Gen.G right back on track. Not like favorites to win or anything, but DRX versus DFM. There's not much to say here. DRX is better. DFM, they look like they haven't progressed, and that's it, right? They don't look that much different from last week. I will just say Jinbun looked really scared, so I hope that gets fixed, because he does have good aim, but he just looks scared to take fights. Moving on, RQ versus Talon. Talon looked lost. They also didn't know how to play that comp. I mean, everyone's been talking about it. That the Ascent was horrible. It just was. And I mean, I'm sure the coaches know how to play it, because in fact, I would argue that Frost showcased with the old roster like really good uses of Deadlock throughout last year. So it's like they know how it's supposed to work, but it looked bad. And RQ looked good. They looked like they were a bit more in tune, a little bit more proactive than week one. So that's good. That's good stuff. And then Boom versus GE. I'm still not sure where I stand on this match, because it's clear that Boom looks to be getting better and better every week, whereas GE looked very different from week one. Because again, week one, I thought I could hear the comms by watching them play. You know what I mean? It was so clean. Yes, it was against CFM, but you look at the minimap, the way they're cross-checking each other and they're holding each other's angles, all of that looked so fluid, and I could basically hear the comms of oh, that person's calling to cover this. That's very cool. And then the comms video came out. Sure, it's edited, but it was very clean, and I was like, okay, this is pretty much what I envisioned was happening. So I was like, okay, this team really looks good. And then against Boom, it's just gone. Meanwhile, Yudotan getting to play the ISO, frags out again. Patrick, definitely still struggling on the Yoru. So yeah, Yudotan's aim is still there, but can you always force this? I mean, I think you can play double duelist on pretty much every map right now, so maybe that's something to consider. On the other side, you know what? It doesn't have to be Dust9 dropping a ridiculous amount of kills for them to win. Still a lot, but Berserks goes crazy in this game. He looked so good in this game. Some of the best performances I've ever seen from Berserks, not just from a kills perspective, but util as well and positioning, and just very disciplined during all of that. So that's so promising to see. You love to see that. And NC Slasher too, putting up frags, last week to this week. You love to see it. And that means Famous, he's still getting 35 kills, but like he doesn't have to be the one that's hard carrying at any point anymore. He can really just be the duelist who's getting the first kills, which he has 10 of, which is also crazy. He takes 14 first encounters and he wins 10 of them. And I hate to point it out. I mean, I know he had a rough day, but I'm just saying you put it in perspective. Patrick Hu had 13 first encounters and he had 10 first deaths. So, like, that makes a world of a difference. And then that means Shiro just has to have an okay stat line and just make good calls. All right, so power rankings. This is what I had going into week 2. And there's going to be, obviously, some teams that need moving around. And there's probably some small adjustments elsewhere, but these are the big adjustments. So basically every team. Okay, let's start with the easy one. Team Secret. Are they 12th? Are they 12th in my head? DFM. Well, I mean, Team Secret has MV2, but May's playing Duelist, so I'm just going to give May the edge here in terms of if you were both playing terribly that day, who would actually carry it out. I'm going to bank on May over Envy. Like, Envy is great, but he's not in a position to hard carry a game, I think. So then the next question is going to be between, like, Zeta, PaperX, GE Talon, I think. Here, let's move you guys over to this side. This is rough just because it's like Zeta I continue to have higher hopes for. Talon I had hopes for and I was disappointed. PaperX hope is a strong word, but I thought it couldn't be that bad and it was. And GE I had hopes for but was disappointed. So because the sample size is so small, like I'm just not sure if Zeta, I would still rank Zeta above any of these teams. I mean, I think it's still the only one I think you would argue for is, I guess, GE, right? It's like, okay, you had one good week and then another week not so much. But what I saw in week 1 is still such a strong foundation that I think they can bounce back. Talon's a weird one because I do think a big part of it is the 2 rookies. Like, I think the rookie factor is really hitting him. But as I was saying earlier, I think Talon is a matter of, like, it's the moment it clicks, I think they have a big jump, right? Because they can actually harness their mechanical prowess. Because the mechanical prowess, I think, is there. Like, especially Premi, obviously, we knew for a long time. Killua, I think, continued to prove it, even in this week, just as an individual, that he has those moments. When does that click? We have zero idea. Honestly, just power. I mean, it's the same thing with PaperX is kind of the same thing with Talon. It's like, if it clicks, it clicks. But I think it's like, Talon's is more of like I have no idea when it's going to click. Whereas PaperX, I'm like, no, I think it's going to take until at least stage 2. Unless, like, who knows? Maybe it got so bad that they're going to put in Patman early. Like, I mean, that could happen. But we'll see. Because it sounds like the original plan was for Patman to warm up into the squad until stage 2. Okay, but then where does that put us with Boom and Gen G? I would definitely put Boom over Gen G. So if we're going off of that so far, right now I would rate Gen G at 6th. So then this, obviously, it's a matchup we won't see unless they both make playoffs. But would I put Boom over RRQ? That is a very interesting question. There's a very strong argument for it. I don't know. Like, I haven't seen what Boom looks like. Like, if Boom, basically my question is would Boom also choke like RRQ, like when push comes to shove? Like, if it's a close 1-2 game. But Boom was underrated. I'm not taking that away. Boom does have really good antis. That is also true. And I do wonder, but I feel like Fields is probably a big part of that. I'm not saying like Six Fingers not a part of that, but just because I think Fields has really good anti against SPG at Ascension, NONGSHIM at Ascension last year too, when he was with Revenant. Honestly, you know what should be done is basically, this is what should be done, is Indo Valorant for the win. They're up here. It's just a package. RQ and Boom. It's a package. They're looking great. And that's going to be great. Honestly, I mean, the thing is, we'll never, I mean, actually, we kind of might know. Like, if Boom 2-0s like everyone in the group, obviously, they're shooting up. They're shooting up to top 3 for sure. But it's just like, honestly, Boom DRX is probably going to be a good tell. Boom DRX is going to be a good tell. And just so people don't get the wrong idea, we're going to put them this way. So you can't tell who's above who. All right? Nobody is above anybody, okay? The logos win. The logos win. The logos are great. We love their logos. And Indonesia is, you know what, for fairness sake, we're going to put them at 4th. And then there is no 5th place team. All right? 5th place is gone. Okay. Listen, I'm still going to put NONGSHIM 3rd. Is there a little bias? Obviously. Obviously, there's a little bias. The solo waylay is a little concerning. But honestly, it's not like they weren't forcing it on Icebox, which I find kind of amusing because a lot of teams have actually been trying to force the solo waylay on Icebox. They were playing against T1. I honestly think that day T1 closes it out because it's T1. And I'm not saying like therefore NONGSHIM contends for top 2. I don't think so. I just think NONGSHIM played really well that day. And not many teams stopped that. I don't think not many teams stopped that. Even with the solo waylay on split, I don't think so. They had an 8-4 on attack. You know, I'm not saying NONGSHIM should shoot up. I just don't think I can I don't think I can knock them down yet just because of that. Could Boom and RQ, I guess RQ lost to NONGSHIM. Could Boom eventually be top 3? I think so. They're looking like they're on a trajectory to do so. But I don't think you're crazy for having the hope and the hype that Boom could be top 3. But I think objectively we don't know that yet. I mean, not that I objectively know NONGSHIM's top 3, but I'm part of NONGSHIM Red Force, and they do play quite well, and they had a very great game with T1. So that's where I stand. But if you're a Boom fan, I think you would absolutely put Boom over NONGSHIM, and I think that wouldn't be crazy, right? You would put Boom 3rd, NONGSHIM 4th, and I don't think that would be insane. But yeah. So I would leave NONGSHIM there and DRX and T1, actually. None of that changes. I think DRX, they still look good, but I think T1 still looks better than DRX right now. DRX might look more meta, but obviously T1 hasn't had much time to explore. But T1 just looks so solid. They look so solid. So, yeah. So T1 and DRX. So this is going to be my this is not disrespect. I just can't put one above the other. All right. So this is my rankings going into week 3. Lots of big changes. I mean, dude, Boom really is showing everybody up. And I'm so happy to see that. I am very happy to see that. As someone who thought, they might have some games like the grand finals last year at Ascension, right? They might have a couple of those, but probably not too many. Like, I just haven't seen the consistency, which again, I think is true. Right? I don't think that's revisionist. The individuals weren't always that consistent. And also they were actually quite one-dimensional in their style, right? They were very much like set up, skirmish, 3v3, boom, we win that and then we win the round. Like that was their style. And they've changed all of that. They now have more defaults. They're playing faster tempo, slower. They can play with tempo. They upgraded their controller. He's fragging out against everybody. No fear. He's taking fights. But it's literally just watching. Berserk's actually tells the whole story to me. Berserk's performance this past weekend against GE tells the whole story of Boom's improvement, including the DOS 9 part. Because he's fragging at his peak. He's consistent from week to week. He is so in tune with his own util, right? He's never missing, recalling the trip, things like that. And I know that sounds silly, oh yeah, you're giving him points because he pressed F or whatever. And it's no, but you don't understand. In the heat of things, sometimes you just forget or you're not paying attention, especially on stage. You don't hear that shock dart coming through, whatever else it might be. But this dude's that just tells me that he's thinking about that ahead of time, right? While he's still fragging, while he's still taunting, he's the hype man, he's fragging, and he's not overheating. He's disciplined. He takes a kill. He backs out. In the past, sometimes he would overheat. Same thing with Famous, but he's not doing that. Now 4 games in a row where they 2-0 2 matches. I'm really happy to see that because obviously Berserk's and basically all the Boom guys, they've been hungry for quite some time. So that's going to be it. Lock it in. This is how I think the teams look going into week 3. Big changes. Womp womp, sad days for Paper X, but hopefully we see them bounce back one day. Excited to see if Zeta can keep climbing over the weeks, and curious to see what GE's going to do in the coming weeks, see if they can bounce back. So now we have one last part. We got to go do our Pickems. Chat, before we move on from the recording, this is so big. Boom being up here is so big. 2 teams in let's just say generously 2 teams solid in top 6, right? I think regardless of bias, you can all agree that Boom and NONGSHIM look top 6, right? That's crazy. That gives a massive amount of chances that one of them is staying, which is huge. I think that's big wins for Pacific as a whole. Would you rather have me buy the NONGSHIM bundle or develop a Ramyun addiction? The NONGSHIM bundle, because the NONGSHIM bundle would directly support NONGSHIM Red Force, whereas Ramyun would support NONGSHIM, the parent company, and that would be great too. But the NONGSHIM bundle would be greater. So before we wrap this up, we do have to adjust our week 3 pick'ems. Again, big apologies to everyone who thought I could read the future. No, I was just really smart in week 1 and really dumb in week 2. The conclusion is all things are in balance, right? I have an over 50% prediction rate, so I'm still cruising. It's all good. How does things look for week 3? Week 3 on, I say this cautiously, but week 3 on paper seems easier. Gen.G versus DFM. Gen.G, they're coming back into a little bit of their own style. DFM looks like they're still regressing a little bit. I think Gen.G should be cruising here. RQ versus Zeta. Zeta does look... this could be a fun game. This could unironically become a very fun 2-1 scoreline if Zeta really, just goes all out. But I think RQ should still win. Although it would be interesting if Zeta makes it close and then it gets really close to map 3. That would again raise some questions on it. Can RQ close out a close 2-1 game? So in some ways, I hope Zeta does that just so RQ can kind of get over that hump for themselves. But RQ should still their starting point is so much higher than Zeta right now that I think they should win. But this could be a 2-1, I think. PaperX versus Boom. I'm sorry, PaperX, but Boom's just looking too good. They're looking clean. Their antis are good. Granted, I don't know how much there is anti against the current PaperX, but it looks very, very good. I think it all. Whereas PaperX looks like PaperX basically looks like a team who's currently figuring stuff out outside of the server, right? Like roles, comms, IGLing, all of that. Talon versus NONGSHIM. Oh, I am feeling good. I am feeling good after watching that absolute train wreck. I am feeling good. Now, I don't think the NONGSHIM Red Force team should feel that good because, again, Talon could make it click at any point, and then you'd really have to respect the firepower. So you should still prepare as closely as possible. But from a supporter's point of view, we are looking good. I cannot wait. I think I'm gonna be watching it with Jaws from Talon, the co-streamer, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch that. So that should be good. And then DRX versus GE. Hopefully GE bounces back, but I think even if they were playing like week 1, DRX should win this anyway. So I think DRX should win that. And I mean, this is a no-brainer. T1 again, like I said on Plat Chat, it would be the most T1 and Team Secret thing to do for Team Secret to just crush T1 out of the blue here. No, week 3, we're coming back. Week 3, we're bouncing right back, chat. All right? Week 3, we're bouncing right back. So I think that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. Again, obviously I can be wrong. Sometimes I do think having some discussions about they overperformed on my expectations. I think that's very good to recognize because I think that gives credit to what the team has done. Because, you've obviously had to put in a lot of work to subvert that, or you were able to unlock that final step or whatever else it might be. So, obviously I don't dislike any team, unlike, some people named Achilleos. I don't dislike any team. And as he said, he doesn't actually dislike that team either. But I'm just basing it off of what I'm seeing. But if the teams improve, which they should be doing, that's great news. So Pacific's looking exciting. I'm very excited with how things are turning out. I am very curious how far Boom's going to go because this is fun stuff. But let me know what you guys think about where you're rating each team going into week 3. And if you're looking for any upsets in this weekend's matches, let me know which one it is down in the comments below. That's going to be it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and also check out our live watch parties here on this channel. That'll be it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.